Hi everyone, and welcome to my last playthrough video for Bayonetta on the Xbox 360. This is the Epilogue, and it's titled Requiem. And so this one starts off with Jeanne coming back. You haven't seen her for a little while, and it's a really cool way to end the game. There's some crazy set pieces coming up, the first of which is Jeanne on her motorcycle, riding up a rocket that's blasting into space. So, very realistic stuff, right? This is pretty reminiscent of Route 666 from earlier in the game, where Bayonetta was on her motorcycle racing on a highway to a very cool version of Afterburner, the music from Afterburner. And so this one is interesting. It's kind of cool. You see the exhaust from the rockets, and you see the world pulling away from you and going through the clouds. But I had a problem with the camera angle when she's coming towards you. There are enemies coming at you, and I just couldn't get the angles right, and I got hit quite a bit on that. So I'm guessing pure platinuming stuff like this, or even the Space Harrier level, can be a bit of a pain in the butt. And so this right here is a little more traditional. I like those jumping segments. They're just so insanely silly. But I like that the characters in this game just know they kick butt, and they never break character, and are just so cool. That's something that I do like about this game, despite the fact that I think the story is kind of crap. The actual characters and their personalities are very memorable. You know, when Luca first appears, I'm like, okay, who's this guy? But you know, he has a funny moment, you know, where he tries to pick up on the girl, doesn't work out so well, and he has a number of those moments throughout the game interacting with Bayonetta. You know, Jeanne, you know, she's sort of like this female spiritual successor to Dante from Devil May Cry. You know, Bayonetta is great. Cereza, I think, is one of the best characters in this game, just because she's cute and she has very good animation. And I like the fact that she's always crying, and the characters are reacting to that. So, you know, she's not a hindrance to the game, and doesn't make the game not fun. And in fact, you know, she gives Bayonetta, you know, reasons for doing what she's doing, so she's an important character in this game. I don't like Baldur very much. He's just sort of the generic, all-powerful, you know, all-knowing guy, and his voice is, you know, I guess kind of creepy, but just too much dialogue. And that's a thing I mentioned in my last video, is that Chapter 16 starts off with like 10 minutes of him just talking, and it takes the mystery out of him a bit. You know, when he just talks and talks, it's sort of like a like a Michael Crichton novel, where there's this character that knows everything, and all of a sudden at the end of the book they explain everything very conveniently, and you know, solve the mystery that was going on. And so in a similar way, I felt that here, in that all these things happen, but then you have this guy that, you know, talks for 10-20 minutes total, just explaining everything that's gone on in the game and why you're there. But yeah, so apart from him, I thought the rest of the cast was great, and I think that's what's going to make Bayonetta 2 fun to start playing, is that the characters in this were memorable, and I do want to I guess hang out with them again. I think they're great, and I want to see how the relationships further develop in the sequel. And getting back to this actual battle, I think it's really good. You know, despite some of the weird camera angles, because you're fighting inside this sphere most of the time, and the camera kind of pulls out and has to be outside of it a bit. It's really good. You know, there are moments where, you know, you have to outrun these spinning vortexes, otherwise they will turn you into Cereza, and you can't do any attacks. You're kind of invincible for a little while, but you can't really do anything, and it's kind of a neat little touch. And then she'll also, or Jubileus will also create this purple vortex that if you get sucked into it, it's an instant death. And that killed me 2 or 3 times during this battle. And so I had to switch into the Panther mode and run and do double jumps to stay away from it. And then, you know, she'll summon different environments, and so you'll have to fight in these fire areas and ice areas, avoiding different kinds of obstacles and environmental hazards. So that adds some variety. You know, you fight on these floating platforms, which are kind of reminiscent of earlier boss battles in the game. So overall, I think they did a really nice job on this boss battle. It felt good, and it was always clear what you had to do. Versus, I think it might have been Temperance, where I had some problems figuring out that I had to hit the fingers multiple times or something like that. But this one was good, and so there's a Cereza running around with her Cheshire doll, pretty cute, and then she tries to get punched, but you don't take any damage while that's happening. But you do pop out of it after the second punch, and you can go into Witch Time when you turn back into Bayonetta. So yeah, kind of getting back to the game in general, I'm going to be putting together the video and written review for this next week. But I can talk a little bit more about the things I liked and didn't like in this game. And the thing I really liked was the combat system. And I had mentioned this in my Chapter 16 video that I'm not very good at these action games, but Bayonetta is one where you can play it more casually, I guess, where you can hit buttons almost at random and cool combos will come out, or you can really dedicate yourself and understand the system and do, you know, non-stop combos with the maximum multiplier, which I believe is 9.9, and understand the dodge offset system and use the accessories and weapons to their maximum effectiveness. And I think that's great. I think any game of this style, like this, or a fighting game or what have you, should be like that. You know, there are some fighting games where, you know, if you aren't good at them and don't even know, you know, the basics, you'll just get whooped, and that can be very frustrating for newcomers. And so I think that's something that Bayonetta does exceptionally well, is even though you might struggle, you can still get through the game not playing it the way that, you know, the experts play it. You can get through it as a relative beginner and do pretty well and see the entire game and have fun, you know. So I think that's cool, and it's interesting. I've never worked on a fighting game. I've done third-person action games before, but never a fighting game that has such a deep combo and combat system. And that must be really difficult for developers to find that balance, right? It's something I think that a company like Nintendo struggles with, in that they have this family-friendly reputation, and so there's this feeling that Nintendo games are just easy and made for kids, but they're not. And while they do start off easy and most of the time just kind of ease you slowly into the gameplay mechanics, they are hard. You know, Mario Kart 8, I think even on 100cc can be pretty tough to get all 3 stars on, and 150cc is pretty insane, and has almost made me want to throw the gamepad a few times. And same with, you know, some of their other franchises like the Mario games. To get everything in those games and to get 100%, you have to be very, very good at those. And so, you know, to be able to do that, to make your game appeal to folks who are just beginners or don't know how to play platform games, and also appeal to those who've been playing these games since the 80s and who are masters at platformers or whatever genre we're talking about. You know, that's pretty interesting stuff to me, and I would love to learn more about what the approach is to designing games that appeal to, I guess, quote-unquote, everyone. And so that was kind of a long-winded explanation or discussion on the combat system and gameplay in Bayonetta. And so, yeah, that's the thing I think that this game succeeds at in flying colors, is its gameplay. The things I didn't like, there's a technology piece here that I don't like. I don't like that there's so much screen tearing, and, you know, performance takes a hit quite a bit in this game. As much as it wants to be 60 frames per second, you know, it does drop quite a bit. And all these cutscenes are 30 frames, which is the same as Bayonetta 2, but it doesn't really matter because they're cutscenes, but at the same time, it is jarring going from 30 to 60 and back to 30. As I've mentioned several times, the mini games in Bayonetta some are cool, some aren't. The angel attack shooting gallery levels that happen between chapters, it was kind of neat the first time, but I think it's also a pace killer and not very interesting. It is a nice way to get bonus items and halos, and I do like very much that you'll occasionally hear old Sega music, including Fantasy Zone from the Sega Master System in the arcade. That's a game not too many people know about, but the fact that Platinum and Sega put it in here is pretty noteworthy. I think that's very, very cool. And so, and I also like this, kind of as a side note, I like that, you know, as the credits are playing, you still get to play the game. There's 3 sections here that you can play. I failed the first 2, so I'm only showing the third one, which is so much easier because you have like non-stop Wicked Weaves going on. And so I think I got pure platinum on this one. But yeah, I like that, or I think the other thing that I really like about this game is that it seems like Platinum just had a great time making it. You know, with these endings that keep on going, you know, you had one ending and the credits just kind of stop and you get to play more. And then during these credits, you know, you get to play more. It just shows that they had a good time, and that at the same time, Sega gave them the freedom to do these things. This is really cool too. Very James Bond opening credit sequence like. It has that kind of retro 60s look and feel. Very, very cool. The music in this game is fantastic. One of the best soundtracks I've heard in a long time, and I'm going to have to find it. If I can't buy it, I'm going to have to just listen to the tracks on YouTube or something, because they're really, really good. And from what I've heard in Bayonetta 2, those are great too. And then this final congratulations screen comes up with this nice, it's almost, nice picture in the background that scrolls by. You unlock hard mode, get more weapons, and the world of Bayonetta, which has artwork. Actually, you know, that has a soundtrack there, so I can listen to the music in that. And new weapon. And then this long sequence, which is just sort of like, I guess, fan service. This goes on for quite a bit, where she just dances through different environments, and her hair does, you know, goes on, goes off. And so, a little silly, but, you know, hey, you made it through the game. Your thumbs are probably sore, so here's a little reward. Anyway, thanks for hanging out for all these videos, and I will see you in the video review. Have a good one, and thanks again.